All right, welcome back everyone for another Tour Talks. We've been getting a lot of positive responses from this, so we're going to try and keep it going. I'm going to try and find as many guys as I can connect with as possible. Fortunately, Darren is one of the nicest, most kind guys. He's got a massive YouTube following. He could easily be like your little channel. I don't have time for that, but he's just an amazing human being. I appreciate him making time for this. Darren, welcome to Tour Talks, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I don't know about the first part, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in bowling a long time, and it's cool to see people really find stardom, but still be pretty grounded. So I really appreciate it, and I really am excited today to get into it with you on what you see the future of being a PBA star like. Now that you've kind of created a lot of these digital revenue streams, and I think that's interesting to a lot of people. But before we get there, I want people to kind of know your background a little bit. Tell us about your parents, your brother, and kind of your background in bowling.
Yeah, I feel like I've told this story so many times now that it
Yeah,
changes a little bit from time
yeah,
to time. But yeah, I guess I'll start with my dad. He owned a pro shop before Mikey and I were born. We are 2.5 years apart. That bowling center unfortunately closed, so the pro shop along with it, all that stuff ended up in our garage. And growing up, naturally, we had no idea what it was. And we had a drill press, a little bit of inventory. So there was a little pro shop in our garage. Used to play around with the drill bits and kind of switch them around, miss and match, and Dad would get really mad about that. So it was kind of funny. But he did drill mine and Mikey's first bowling balls.
that's so
Um,
cool.
yeah, and then my mom, she didn't really get into the space. Actually, I mean, really involved until we started bowling. But she bowled league every Thursday night, and I guess you could say we grew up in the bowling center because while she was bowling, my dad worked night shifts. So naturally, Mikey and I would go to the bowling center. So
Yeah, yeah,
um, we started bowling in 2002. Shortly after, my mom took the junior director job, and then we eventually that was in Sarah Bowl in Daly City, and we eventually moved over to Seabowl in Pacifica, which was like 20 minutes up the hill or up and over the hill.
yeah,
She took a position there. My brother happened to shoot 300 the very first time we bowled our travel league there in 2006,
yeah.
and
And he was how old?
we were 10 years old.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah,
And from there, we were kind of off to the races.
yeah, yeah. It's so cool, and I'm glad you mentioned the 300 with your brother because I don't know those of you watching if you've ever seen The Last Dance. I love the documentary. I love the story of Jordan. I've always been interested in sports psychology, and there he talks about his relationship with his brother and how his brother just that rivalry with his brother created so much motivation as a kid and really ended up he had a chip on his shoulder. Michael Jordan had a chip on his shoulder really even into adulthood because he could never beat his brother Larry at a lot of things, and so he always had this mindset of kind of having to prove himself. Now obviously not all sibling dynamics are the same, but I'm really curious as to know what you and your brother Michael are similar in age. You're the older brother, but I'm curious if you'll like give us a peek into what that dynamic was like from a competitive place. Like you guys are similar enough in age. You think was he? I mean, he bowled 300 first, but do, can you say really who you felt like was better at a younger age or not? Were you guys pretty similar, or were you guys pretty like supportive of each other the entire way, and there really wasn't much? Um, I don't know, maybe camaraderie or competitiveness there.
Yeah, I think our evolution of competitiveness and sibling rivalry was very interesting. Like at first, when he shot 300, I didn't really know how to feel. It was like
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
that's really cool. My brother just bowled 300 and he's the youngest one to do it. At the same time,
yeah,
I'm like, he's younger than me and he did it first. So
yeah,
I'm kind of
exactly.
jealous, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and I think that's where it was a big motivating factor for me to push ahead, to work really hard. I think that's a lot of where my drive comes from.
Yeah,
Just kind
yeah,
of that springboard because he's always been the more talented one physically. Just in anything we did,
right.
he picked it up. He absorbed things like a sponge. It was pretty crazy how quickly he could do things and how proficiently he could do them. And had to work a little bit harder no matter what it was. So
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, in that respect, I was a little jealous that he could just pick up on things and just fly with it. But at the same time, I feel like you do need the hard work part of it to really keep at it and be consistent. So I think that's where I kind of have the one up.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Just a quick message to say that if you like bowling videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. As always, we appreciate the support so much. We're growing quickly, and we can't thank you enough. Now let's get back to the interview. It's I love that you touched on that because we both do coaching. Darren just launched howtobowl.com, by the way, which we'll get into, which is super cool. But often we see in coaching when you have talent at a really young age and things come easier, often, I don't know, Darren, if you would agree, but sometimes those players don't build as much resilience. And so once their talent gets them to a certain ceiling, they have a harder time sticking with it, having a good positive attitude because they haven't built the resilience yet because things have come so easy because of their talent. Not to say that that's your brother, but just generally speaking, you know what I mean? And so it sounds like you're saying that the fact that things came a little harder to you allowed you to build quite a bit of resilience. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty accurate to say. I think that's why my brother kind of struggled a little bit out here, and a lot of the other kids his age that had a lot of success in the junior ranks, because you come out here, everybody can do what you can do. It's the little things that kind of set you aside, set you apart.
Yeah.
You got to get the edge somewhere, and you can't ride talent alone because, let's face it, everybody out here has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I think outside of the whole family stuff and just not performing well, I think it was just hard for him to really figure out his place out here, and he was kind of losing a little bit of passion. So that's why he stepped away for a little bit. I have no doubt that he can win one day if he decides to come back. So.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I can definitely relate to his position a little bit, and the fact that I love the pro shop stuff. I also loved competing, and he also, I think, has a kid, right?
Yeah, he's got a 2-year-old now, almost 2.5. So that made it really tough. I mean, I think he was the main reason why he decided to step away. It's because it's tough when you're out here and you're not having success, beating your head against a wall, and thinking about I could be spending time with my kid that's growing, he's learning, these are the stages that you don't really want to miss.
Yep.
And I get a little taste of that when I get to go visit them every so often, but I can't imagine having my own kid and being away for that long and not having a whole lot of success.
Our last tour talk with Blanchard, we talked a lot about that and how that played a huge part in his decision of retiring early. But getting back to that kind of sibling rivalry, that sibling dynamic, while it's really interesting in terms of how it ends up shaping both of you, especially you, the other interesting aspect, I think, is the dad, because he was probably, did he kind of act as your guys' main coach for both of you?
Yeah, we didn't have any kind of professional coaching per se. My dad knew quite a bit about the physical game, things like that, just being kind of a student of the game and the type of person he is. He strives to be the best at what he does. He is an airplane mechanic, and he's a lead instructor. He takes on apprentices and teaches them all things that need to be known about how to fix airplanes. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I'm curious. I'm sure we have parents that are also watching that maybe have kids or have siblings together. How did your dad handle that sibling rivalry in terms of trying to not give one person too much attention or another? Looking back on it, do you feel like you got more attention than your brother because you didn't catch on as quickly, or do you feel like his natural talent made your dad more excited to work with him? And you can tell me if none of this is my business.
Yeah. No, not at all. He didn't pick favorites based on that.
Okay.
It was more, I have what I have to offer, and you're either going to take it or you're not.
Oh, okay.
So
got it.
My brother, being as physically gifted as he was, he picked up on things super fast. I was very stubborn. I didn't like to listen, which is partially the reason why my physical game isn't as good as his, because I didn't really take on the things that he had to offer. So in that respect, he didn't really choose favorites, but my brother listened more, so naturally it seemed like he was the favorite.
Okay.
And it was really cool just to see how quickly he could do things. He modeled his game after Tommy Jones.
Yeah.
Creating a lot of power like that. And
I could see that, yeah.
Lo and behold, he ended up with a little more power than Tommy Jones. Mikey was hooking the ball more than most guys on the tour, more so than he probably needed to at times. But it's crazy what he could do with a bowling ball. But going back to my dad, I really can't say much more than that. It was just, I have this. If you're going to listen, cool. If you're not, then pack up your stuff. We're going home.
Yeah, no, totally sounds good. I mean, that makes sense. I have 5-year-old twin boys, and I mean, it seems like an effective approach to basically be like, look, I'll help you if you want help. If you don't want help, I can't help you.
Mhm.
Essentially, which is kind of like what you're saying, right?
I think it's really up to the kid to decide what they want to do with the information, because you can provide. I've seen a couple of things where like a parent basically raises two kids the same way, but they kind of veer off into completely different paths just because of how they receive the information and how they
Yeah.
perceive it.
Yeah, I full transparency, before having twin boys, I really thought the environment shaped people. I was definitely much more of a nurture versus nature kind of guy. Now that I have two twins that go through the same routine every day, it I think the universe or God definitely put them in my path to teach me that there is a lot of nature that exists in people for sure. Um, but so getting back to your brothers, and so you kind of build this you and your brother, you kind of build this resilience over time. Do you feel like there was a moment in time where you feel like, okay, I can do this, I can bowl on the national tour, like I'm good enough? Do you feel like there was a particular moment, a particular event that led you to feel like you got there, or do you?
My journey's been a little interesting. I never had a ton of success. I think your everyday bowler kind of looking at a player like myself, and you look at the junior career I had, you go, hey, I was pretty successful. I never really thought of it that way because I thought success was based on having the trophy at the end of the event, and I didn't have that very often on the big stage. I didn't make Team USA, Junior Team USA, until my last year. I was 21 years old. I was the oldest on the team. That limited some opportunities for me with the team because I was at the end of my junior career. Uh, College, I fell short. I had the singles title in hand, and I basically gave it away. Uh,
That's rough.
so yeah, there were a lot of things that kind of I felt like didn't add up to a very successful junior career.
Right.
But I wouldn't trade it for anything else because I think those moments taught me that you have to go through those things to become more successful. You have to learn how to lose before you can win. And I think I'm glad those things happened earlier than later because I think it's kind of tougher to swallow when you get out on the big tour and you have a meltdown like that to lose a title. I think it hurts a little more when the value of the title is a little higher. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely didn't have it super easy or things didn't come easy early on
Yeah.
either. I had success my first year on tour. I made a show. Ended up finishing second to Mike Wolf. He almost doubled my score. So I mean, walking away from that, I was like, it was a 4-man match. Top two moved on, and I was the highest score of that game, so I was technically the 1 seed going into the title match. So that was cool. And then it was just a learning experience.
Yeah.
I bowled 140 my first title match on TV, so there was a lot to learn from that
You
one.
you beat Doherty's 100 game against Mika.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that first year you making a telecast, was that the moment when you felt like I can do this, or did it come later when you won? Because you have one national title, I believe, right?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah. Was that the moment when you won the title, or was it your first year when you said, "Look, it's my first year. I made a telecast," or do you just are you kind of so hard on yourself that you may never really kind of you said that you don't really look back and acknowledge that you had a great youth career, but probably to most people you did have a pretty dang good youth career. Do you
Yeah.
feel like you're so hard on yourself that you maybe never get into that mindset of like I actually in your last video I just watched, you're like, I'm a professional bowler, I'm good at this. So I'm kind of just curious. Does that question make sense?
Yeah. Things I think are evolving. I try not to be the same. I try to get a little bit better, and I think being able to accept things and pat yourself on the back gives you some confidence. That's like the building on the little things. That's something I never really looked at. I would be overly critical of everything I did. That's just how I was raised. But it's hard to build confidence when you're telling yourself that you're not doing things well all the time, or you're only focusing on the things you need to get better at. You have to. I've learned you have to look at the things that you do well and say, hey, yeah, I do this pretty well, and
Yeah.
that gives you a little bit more confidence. When you get out there and you get to do these things and you accomplish what you're trying to do, whether it's just making a good shot or conquering a tough pair, things like that. You just give yourself a little bit of hey, you're doing a good job.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I mean, to me, at least hearing your story, it's a story of really learning and building resilience. And it sounds to me like a key component of being resilient is being able to understand when to take a positive and when to be critical and those kinds of things. So getting back to your brother, he also has his own YouTube channel, TV Bowling Supply. Definitely check it out. I'll have it pop up somewhere in here. And he, like you mentioned, he just mentioned the retirement. How did you feel when he mentioned that? I'm sure he probably told you first before he probably announced it on YouTube. Going back to that dynamic of really trying to always kind of compete with each other, how did you feel about that announcement? I guess.
Yeah, so I guess I never really touched on how our relationship kind of um, ascended, I would say, because
Right.
it definitely everything happened in a more positive way. When I was about 13, I kind of realized and said, "Hey, we can get a lot better faster if we help each other rather than just try to beat each other's brains in every single
Right.
week."
Right.
At the same time, we're helping each other, but at the same time, when push comes to shove and we got to play against each other, we're gonna play.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, hearing him, it was a long time coming. I guess not. I mean, I guess not a long time coming, but we weren't sure how committed he was to not bowling the tour season because he was saying it all year. He's like, yeah, no matter what happens, I'm done after this year. I'm just not really enjoying it. The passion's kind of fading. Used to have that feeling. He kind of put it in a good way where like, what would my career be if I didn't win, or how would I feel if I didn't win on tour? And he was starting to feel very okay with that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
I
that
love
drive,
that.
that drive just wasn't really there to win anymore. So he said that was the moment that I really decided that, maybe right now this isn't the thing for me.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's a good way of even framing. Um, Speaking on from myself, when I was younger, I just competed because I always competed and I wanted to continue to see how good I got. But then once I started reaching my ceiling, I think it would have been a great question for me to ask myself and maybe potential viewers of, how would I feel if I went, didn't have a national title? And I think it's a great question. Um, but he's developing a great following on his YouTube channel as well now. I think it's great that he gets to be a dad. As a dad, in my opinion, nothing stacks up. It's amazing. But speaking of YouTube, I really want to get into your thoughts here on the digital space, the future of being a PBA star, because I really think that's where your perspective is really unique, and I think myself and the viewers would love to know what you think. So, just in case somehow the viewers don't know, you have a channel now that's close to 190,000 subs, I think, or something like that. Is
Yeah,
that
we're creeping up there. I think within the
yeah,
next couple of months we should hit 200,000. So that's pretty
yeah.
exciting.
It's amazing, and you just launched howtobowl.com, which is like an instructional courses and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And you have, is it you and Packy, I believe, that's involved?
Yeah, it's Packy, myself, and Jesse.
And Jesse, yeah. And Jesse, so the viewers know, Jesse is, how would you uh, call Jesse in terms of the operations of things?
Yeah, at this very moment, I would say we're business partners
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
venture. We have YouTube, we got dynastybowl.com,
yeah,
howtobowl.com. We're kind of reaching out, trying to extend all into all branches of I guess all the different streams of income that we can find. Anything we could kind of grasp, anything that's new to the market, we're trying to dip our feet into because there's a lot of untapped, uh, I guess, opportunities in bowling, and we're
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
just see what we can do with it.
Yeah, exactly. So, he kind of does the editing of the videos and a lot of behind the scenes work. And that was the other thing I was going to mention too is the Dynasty Bowling kind of brand. You guys have apparel and it's kind of a bowling brand, which is really cool. Um, and I would assume, obviously, you don't have to go into details, but I would assume that for you, the ability to pay your bills is being helped more by the digital side than necessarily the prize funds of the PBA. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
unfortunate that that's the case, at least on the bowling side. I mean, to be able to make a living on, in the digital spaces, I guess a content creator or influencer is uh, kind of a dream come true for a lot of people. You get to make videos and kind of just have fun for a living. So that in that respect, it's really cool.
Yeah.
On the bowling side of things, it's unfortunate that it's not really an option because I don't think the tour is as what's the word for it? It's not as the volume of talent is not as concentrated as it could be, just
Right.
because a lot of players decide to go the I need to get a job every day or the guaranteed salary route.
Right. Right.
So we don't really know how strong bowling could be at the professional level until there's enough money to where every single kid that bowls in college wants to try to make it on the tour.
Yeah. So I guess diving into the real juicy stuff, I think for me, anyways, that I'm interested in is how do you think anyone that's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, etc., wanting to go bowl and compete on tour, do you think that they should immediately look at trying to figure out how to add that digital piece like you have to it?
I don't think it necessarily needs to be what we do, digital media wise. Um, I do think a secondary source of income is necessary at the moment, especially if you're first getting out there. You just don't know what's going to happen because right now the tour is leaning towards becoming more and more elite. The fields are becoming a lot, the guaranteed fields are becoming a lot smaller. So that makes it tough your first year. You have to come out, you will the PTQs, you have to make it into the main fields. You have to bowl well enough in the main fields to get points and hopefully finish in that top. Right now it's 43. And I'm guaranteed into every single event right now. I'm not even in the top 43, 3 events into the year. So it's not even a guarantee for players like myself. It's a tough,
Pretty crazy.
it's a tough thing to do, and to try to commit to that without having the funds or having at least that secondary source of income is really really tough.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for anyone from that demographic that may be coming up as to help them decide whether they should try to go down that avenue and say they start doing the PTQs and they go down that avenue of whether or not they should try to build a YouTube channel and kind of a community along that journey or whether they shouldn't? Is there personality traits or certain motivations, anything you think that they could look for?
Yeah, I definitely don't think there's a downside to any of that. Creating a YouTube channel, creating a community. I don't want to say creating, but building a community. Um, that's where your fans come from. That like I started streaming on Twitch because I wanted to be more interactive with my fans, be able to talk to them in live time. Um, I don't know why it was between YouTube and Twitch at first. Twitch is a live streaming platform for those that don't know.
Yeah.
Eventually I said, why can't I just do both? And I did. But I chose Twitch because I thought it was cool that I could go out into the world, live stream whatever I'm doing, whoever I'm with, and be able to talk to the people that are watching.
Yeah, and I, those of you watching, forgive me. Sometimes I can get a little too philosophical or hippie, but there's some people that feel like we're naturally social creatures, and really the highest level of fulfillment is kind of that social connection with other human beings, right? So I want to ask you, how does winning a national title, because you're really one of very few people that have won a national title and also developed this really strong community of people that you can connect with and etc. How would you compare those two accomplishments and just general feelings? And if going back to Mikey's question of am I okay with never winning a national title? If you had to only choose one, you could only either win the national title or you have your YouTube community. So there's a lot of questions in that, which is why I suck at this job. But tell us how the two feelings feel. We'll start with that. So it's kind of a
yeah. Well, the other one, I can't choose. I can't choose between, because obviously winning is the ultimate goal as a competitor and wanting to be one of the best at what you do. So to give that up is a big ask.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to give away something that I've kind of nurtured along and started basically from the bottom.
Yeah.
And helped grow into what it is now. So it's kind of hard to give up either of them. It's really hard. Almost
maybe I could rephrase it as, which one do you think means the most to you?
If I had to be completely selfish and put me first, it's got to be the title, because of all the years and hard work that's all of that comes to fruition.
especially if the viewers know your background, you know, the resilience and all those kind
Yeah.
of things.
And the crazy part is most people don't know anyone's background out here. They just see them as a face on TV and, hey, they're kind of good at bowling.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's so true. So did the national title feel different in any way than how you feel now connecting with your fans on Twitch or walking into a bowling center and having so many different kids or people recognize you and come up to you?
In that moment, they always say, everybody that wins, they say they can't describe the feeling.
Yeah.
You just don't know how to attach a word to how that feels.
Right.
But it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just knowing that you did everything you could to get there and you finally did it. All the emotions and all the anger, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the the sadness you go through, the happy moments, it all kind of just comes out as one thing.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
to be able to see your banner on the masking unit at that next event and not having to bowl the PTQ for the TOC and just all the cool things that come with it, it just makes you smile.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine the high of winning at that level. And I'm sure it's just a different feeling than the accomplishment you feel around the community that you've built. And I think another interesting question I have for you is, as you bowl on tour longer now, and those kind of identities, those goals kind of diverge, I guess, of your community and competing as a national tour player, do you start to feel pressure that you have to continue to bowl on tour for the YouTube channel to be the YouTube channel? Or do you feel like when you're ready to hang them up from the tour that the YouTube channel can still succeed and thrive without you having to compete?
I think that's the biggest difference between, at least from the outside looking in, between our channel and Brad and Kyle's channel, because a lot of their, I guess, traffic comes from during the tour. Our tour vlogs
Okay, good to know.
historically have done the worst on the channel.
Oh,
So I think
what videos do you guys do the best with, if you don't mind me asking?
usually the Pro VMs, things like that. Really, the stuff that's more techie, more bowling related.
Okay.
Those are the videos that don't do well.
Oh, okay.
But the things we kind of step outside of bounds or outside the realm of just bowling and try to make it more relatable, those are the videos that typically do the best.
Yeah, I could see that. So that's cool. So you feel like you're positioned in a place where, if for whatever reason you decide to hang them up, you don't feel like the channel would necessarily suffer.
No, if I retired from the tour right now and just focused on YouTube videos with Jesse, it would probably honestly be better.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I mean, I knowing you a little bit, obviously, I don't know, we're not BFFs or anything, but I mean, to me, that makes sense. I watch your channel a lot, and I mean, I think I would still watch it even if you weren't on tour, you know? It's just interesting stuff. So the other thing you have going on is howtobowl.com with Packy. Tell us kind of how that started and what's it like working with Packy.
Yeah, we actually haven't really worked a whole lot together
Okay.
on that. It was really more of Jesse's idea and a project that he wanted to commit to and go and roll with. And I think it was a great idea, and he's executed on it. He's worked really hard on it. And initially it was just him and I, and then he decided that he wanted to expand upon this and bring in as many faces as possible to teach as many people as possible.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That makes sense. Do you looking at kind of the general camaraderie and respect among the younger national tour guys? Do you feel like the younger, like kind of this era of national tour guys are like friendlier and less competitive with each other than previous eras? You know what I mean? Do you feel like there's
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Speak on that at all? Like, what do you think that's just kind of a different culture? What do you think caused that? Or any
I think
thoughts?
probably college bowling. I know some of the guys like Barnes and Bill, those guys, they all bowled college as well. It just doesn't seem as cutthroat. Like, if we bowl each other and one beats the other, it's not like the other guy's not going to talk to the guy that beat him for the rest of the day. Whereas I feel like if that happened before, that might be the case. So we're all really trying to help each other get to the same place because we all want to try to reach the top. So I guess it's kind of the same philosophy I had with my brother when I was younger. We're going to compete against each other, but why not help each other get there on the way?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I find it fascinating the difference there in it almost just feels like a difference in mentality where now it's just kind of like it seems like you guys can turn it off and on a little easier. Like I'm here to beat you and win, but then once I'm done, I can turn it off. Where at least for me, when I was younger and I was interacting with some of the pros, it was kind of like that guy's my competitor on the lanes, and like he's also the enemy off the lanes. Sometimes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and we've worked with this mental performance coach at Team USA camp, and he put it in a really good way where you can't be what you do all the time,
I like
because
that. Yeah,
if
I
it
like that.
doesn't turn off, then you have to separate. This is the saying. You have to separate what you do from the who, because
Oh, I like that.
because
Yeah.
yeah, you can't. He said you can't define yourself by your accomplishments and what you do, because that's all you'll ever be if you do that.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
we're all people outside of what we do.
Yeah, it becomes your identity. That makes sense. That
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense.
So I
So,
think learning that, it's made it easier to kind of separate the two.
yeah, sure. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Or I guess it would separate the who from what you do. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've had massive YouTube success. As far as I can tell, you guys have the biggest bowling channel there is. You have howtobowl.com that's growing. Get the Dynasty Bowling brand. I would definitely say that you and Brad and Kyle and now Packy are kind of on the forefront of reshaping what it's like to be a pro bowler. Based on that, as you're interacting with the younger generation, do you feel like they're more optimistic now on becoming a professional bowler through the lens that they can do a lot of these other digital things that you and Packy and Brad and Kyle have done?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just the evolution of how things are. Things change over the years. I know a lot of the younger generation coming up after us has already gotten a head start. I think Brad and Kyle were kind of the first ones. They were the pioneers. They kind
Yeah,
of trailblazed the way. And Packy and I kind of just followed their footsteps a bit. Kind of sprinkled in some things here and there to be a little different. And then obviously I have Jesse on my end to be able to expand on that with content and whatnot, and his knowledge of the game and his experience. But there are a lot of kids now that have pretty big followings already, and by the time they get to where we're at, they might have 500,000, 1 million subscribers following their journeys.
yeah, exactly. If there's any of them out there kind of watching this, what are three things or two, whatever you can give us that you would suggest? Because I mean, you're at 190K now in only 4 years, which is pretty good, but I'm sure that you've learned a lot along the way. Do you think that they should like maybe look at public speaking classes or getting good on camera quicker? Or what do you think are like two or three things that we can give to them if they're a young competitor looking to make a channel and also try and compete at the same time?
Yeah, honestly, you just have to start. The first few times, if you're not a very outgoing or outspoken person, it's going to be kind of awkward. Pulling out a camera in public and talking to the camera. It is a
Yeah,
little, it's a little weird. I still
yeah,
kind of get that hesitance when I pull it out at a restaurant or something like that. I'm like, this is kind of weird. I'm in a public space and I'm just talking to the
yeah.
camera, but
Yeah, I could imagine
it
that's weird.
I think it helps a lot, especially when you do come face to face with someone that wants to interview you per se. It's a lot easier to talk to that person, answer the questions, because you've had that practice of speaking in front of a camera or just speaking in general. I know the Storm Evolution program, they have the kids talk to they make videos about what I don't know, but a lot of the parents apparently have said that the kids have improved with their public speaking just because they've started doing that. So
Yeah,
I think
makes sense.
it's naturally just going to progress on its own. Like I've gotten a lot better. Even talking to Kimberly when she does her pressing questions or anything like that. It's before it's like I have a million things going on in my mind. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Now
Yeah.
everything just kind of rolls off the tongue the way I feel like it should.
Yeah. And so really what you attest to that development mainly is just doing it. Is just putting in the reps, getting the
Yeah,
experience.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
no, that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like the main two things you're suggesting is just get started, kind of do it, and mainly just kind of get experience talking on camera and whatnot. So that makes a lot of sense. Any other projects you got going on, man? That our followers or viewers can go check out.
Projects. We actually just started doing this new thing before PBA telecasts. It Right now we're in, actually today we're doing one today. We're doing a live stream before the Illinois show or the Mount Prospect show.
Got it.
And it's just a pregame show, pretty much. It's on the House
That's
Bowling
cool.
channel.
Okay.
The first week was at the U.S. Open. It was very successful. We had 1,000 viewers pretty much the whole time. Packy's the host. Kevin Williams is on the show, as well as Chris Vi and I. So
Cool.
it's been really fun. We're like bowling's version of TNT on ESPN or TNT or NBA on TNT.
Yeah, I love that. Who's who do you think is Chuck and who's Shaq? And you guys figure that out yet?
We did it kind of based on where we were sitting. So I'm the smallest guy, but I ended up being in Shaq's spot, and I almost rolled the chair off of the set. And I remember when Shaq tripped up on those cables and he fell on the ground. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it's really hard to say who's who personality wise, but just based on the seats.
Yeah.
Packy, unfortunately, was Chuck because he was on the other end.
Yeah.
And then Kevin, Chris were in the middle. So
Yeah, I hope you guys can recreate that. That'd be great for bowling. I'll have to check it out. Hopefully, our viewers will check it out. And I appreciate your time so much, Darren. Again, our channel is like I don't know what that fraction is, but just infinitesimal, I guess, of your 190,000, and you still took time to sit down with us. So I really appreciate it, man. Good luck the rest of the season, and we'll check out that pregame on the house.
sounds good. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care. Bye.